Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say, I'm watching so-and-so show. And then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it. And that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 3 of Apple TV's Shrinking, entitled 15 Minutes. If you watch the episode title is really obvious. The episode title revolves around Paul's little grieving hack, I guess you could call it, where he allots himself 15 minutes to grieve, and then after that, he puts it behind him and, as he said, gets the fuck on with his day, or something to that effect. I can't remember what he said exactly, but I liked what they did with this 15 minutes thing because, well, there's a few things I liked about, well, a couple things I liked about it. The first is how each person does it differently. Paul's very solemn. Like, we see him just sit there. He's like, yeah, you know, he looks like he's internally going through it, and he's mentally accepting that that's what happens. An alarm goes off, and then he picks up his phone. He's right back to work. And that's one. It's like a very sterile kind of way of doing this. And I also like how once it was over, you look at that moment as a serious moment for Paul's character. Like, okay, we see this character dealing with grief in this time, and this is meant to be a serious moment. And then right when they hop out of it, they hit you with a laugh of him signing his text. I thought that was really funny, and I like the idea. And this show does it a lot. And they did it multiple times in this episode where they balance something serious with something legitimately funny. And I like that because it's kind of a release, right? You're like, oh man, this is deep. This is sad, or this is important. And you're like, you're connected with the show in a more emotional and serious way. And then to kind of like have that, like be jerked out of that moment with something really funny. I think this show does that really well. And I thought that was kind of cool. And they do this again later, and I'm going to talk about it then too. They do it a lot, actually. Alice has a much less sterile version where she's like playing music and just wailing, and Jimmy ends up seeing this. I didn't like Jimmy's version of it where he's like riding the bike and crying. That felt like a very unimaginative Jason Segel kind of thing. Like, that felt like something you would have seen in a movie starring Jason Segel in like 2004. Like, that's what that felt like. But again, you have this moment of him, you know, he's doing the 15 minutes now, he's grieving, and then they hit you with the hilarious fucking gag of the car door opening, and then he falls, and she's like, how are you crying this hard already? I was like, that is an awesome line. Like, whoever came up with that was hilarious. And I love how they do that a lot on this show, like have a serious moment, and then hit you with something real funny right back to back. I think that's really cool, how they do this. And then I also like how they revealed that Jimmy, this is the second thing, Jimmy learned that Paul has been helping Alice via the 15-minute thing. Like, that's how you figure that out. And I liked how it comes off as it starts to play as if Jimmy is going to come at Paul in a you're overstepping your boundaries kind of way. And then for him to ultimately thank him, I think that shows growth from Jimmy. I think it shows, I mean, this is inevitably going to be something that's going to, a conversation that's probably going to start off pretty ugly between him and Liz. and is going to end up being something pretty special probably later in the season. But like the idea of, you know, part of me as a man and as a father wants to say, that's my kid, keep your nose out of my fucking business. But then the other part of him is like, I wasn't doing my job as a father, and you, Paul, and you, Liz, stepped up where I couldn't and took care of someone who's important to me. And I like seeing that growth in him and seeing that perspective. So like, I think that's something else this show is doing really good, is doing a good job of showcasing these varying emotions and how you can transition from a place of like pain and grief, and how once you deal with that in a healthy way, you can then become appreciative of the things that grief made you see poorly in the first place, if you follow me. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm really enjoying this show. I think they're doing really compelling stuff with these characters and their personal relationships and how it makes them interact with each other as therapists, because they're all dealing with their own personal shit. They have to help other people with their shit, and now they're helping each other with their shit. And I think a lot of that stuff is really interesting, especially seeing like, and I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail in a moment, but like Jimmy talking to Gabby about her divorce. That's going to be a thing where it's like he's dealt with not necessarily divorce, but being married to being single. And I think like that could be something that he could walk her through as a therapist. I like the idea of therapists helping therapists. Like, I feel like that could be something that we could see really interesting, especially like, you know, Jimmy has the issue of like feeling like people aren't giving him the full story of who they are. He mentions unreliable narrators. Like, he has that issue. Is that going to come up in their interactions with each other? Like, is he going to be an unreliable narrator to Paul? Is Gabby going to be one to him? She kind of already was, not telling him she was going through a divorce. So, like, I like how they're dealing with that kind of stuff. But then when they go for the laughs, it fucking lands, man. It's a real funny fucking show. When Sean comes back home, and, well, home, but whatever, and Alice and her friend are there, and the friend is into him, and she's like, I'd house him in my V or my A, and that is going to be a really hard line to top for, like, line of the year. That was fucking hilarious. So, like, this show, it's really entertaining, man. I really enjoyed this. So, also in this episode, we learn how Paul is grappling with his Parkinson's. Like, he talks about how physically he's fine. Like, he's not really seeing any effects of that. But I like how the doctor is like, well, how are you handling this mentally? And that's when we learn about the 15-minute thing. And he's like, you know, he doesn't really think about it. But the detachment from reality that he does is interesting for a therapist. But then again, he has the 15 minutes. It's interesting to watch how Paul internalizes what he's dealing with. And I think we're probably due for some really high impact emotional moments from Harrison Ford's character, especially when he has to start maybe having conversations with his family or about his family, because we know he's not up for doing that at this time. Do they even know he has Parkinson's? What if they don't? What if he's kept that close to the chest? Like, these are going to be really interesting scenes, and I think they're doing a good job of setting this kind of stuff up. And then look at the car situation. He hit Gabby. I think he almost hit Jimmy. But he handles it with grace, because it's like, you look on one side, he kind of like openly when it happens, it's kind of like, fuck it, I'm fine, I passed my driver's test. But what does he end up doing at the end of the episode? Passes the ghost, one, secretly tests himself again, because he's like, you know, I want to make sure. Like, it's what he conveys to them outwardly is different than who he is. Like, he has the rough exterior, obviously, but it shows that he took that to heart, that he fucked up Gabby's car, because he went back, even though he had already passed his driving test, he went back to do it again. And then even though he passed it again, he still had her take him. And that shows, that informs on Paul's character. And I like that this show informs on the characters, informs on their relationships, but is also really fucking funny. One other thing I want to talk about that I thought was interesting in this episode was Gabby's situation. So, I was prepared to not like it because of, I don't like how she jokingly revealed that she was going through a divorce. Like, she basically like, yeah, turn up, like, divorce party, this is fun. But I like how they later did a good job of showing that therapists have defense mechanisms too, because when Jimmy shows up for this hype-ass divorce party, she's down in the dumps about it. It shows that it was just an act. It was a performance. And I like the fact that they gave Gabby that depth. But what I didn't like, because I was irritated that they presented the divorce in a humorous light. So I liked when they were showing Gabby being serious. And I'm like, I don't want her to be like a joke all the time. Like, I want to see something serious. So I like that she opened up. What I didn't like, though, I didn't like how when she opened up, it was about her missing Jimmy's wife. That bothered me. And I'll tell you why. Because my thought coming into this scene, the scene of this, what's supposed to be this divorce celebration, when I see that Gabby's not in a good mood, of course we're all going to think like, okay, she's having a hard time with this divorce. Justifiable, relatable. I want to hear her talk about it. I want to hear what she's going through. Give me some insight into that relationship, what went wrong with it, how she's dealing with it, and then in this show's fashion, hit me with a good laugh right after it. But when she made it about Jimmy's wife, it kind of felt like Gabby's pain is only pain via Jimmy, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like her own pain, like I'm dealing with this and my marriage and my husband and all these sorts of things. It's like her pain is like via Jimmy. Like, it's your wife and it's got me really upset. I'm like, that's what she's broken up about? Like, I just wish it had been a little bit more about the divorce and not about my pain via Jimmy, you know? So that was my only knock against the episode is I wish it was more like that and less about, her pain was less about Jimmy. But I want to close with just one single solitary thought that I thought was funny. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, I skipped the thing. I like how they ended the episode with Jimmy feeling like, I got this. Sean's doing great. He's at my house. Everything's going well. He's getting along with Alice. He gets the text from the guy whose date he interrupted at the beginning of the episode. It's like, you told me to be myself and it worked. He's like, yeah, this shit's going great. And then he sees Heidi Gardner's character was lying about breaking up with her husband. And I like how that's now going to have to, again, force him to come to terms with how he's handling his job as a therapist. I thought that was cool. And then the one thing I want to talk about before I wrap up, I know this isn't a long video, but I really wanted to focus on what I think this show is doing well and why. I like how every scene that's in a doctor's office starts with the patient buttoning their clothes. Like, you know, like, it's always like, the scene opens and it's like, buttoning my shirt, buttoning my cufflinks, pulling up my pants. Like, I don't know. I just think that's funny. So let me know what you think about this show in the comments. Again, I'm loving it. I might be able to dedicate more than 10 minutes in the future. But, like, again, there's not... I think I covered the core thing from this episode. And I thought it was really well done. I like what I learned about the characters this week. Unlike Mayfair Witches, I learned a lot about the characters this week. And I love the laughs, man. This show continues to be real fucking funny. So, looking forward to next week. I will see you guys for episode 4. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And until then, peace.